Okay, greetings everyone. This is Ehav Ever from the Chronicles of Ehav Ever, and this is a video response to a YouTube user called You Heard It. No, sorry, from a YouTube user called You Heard Me First Time. She did a video called Kobe Bryant Divorce, Wifey Material 2.0. I recently listened to her video, and I agree with actually quite a bit of what she said. I would say almost like 98%. But I wanted to do a video response about the one issue that I didn't really agree with, which is fine. I mean, people aren't meant to agree on everything, and everybody's got their own opinion. So this is just my particular take on the material in her video, at least the thing that I didn't agree with, and some of the things I did agree with. Okay, so to kick things off, I 100% agree with you concerning the issue of you can kind of look at a person's wife, especially when it comes to people who are in the media, people who are celebrities, athletes, and all that stuff. You could take a look at like how their wives dress in some cases and kind of tell what kind of marriage you're looking at. I think on some level that is true. I think there are always exceptions to that rule, but I think for the most part you're on point with that particular issue. Um, where I would diverge a little bit on this issue is I think that you focus a lot on the women themselves that are the women that are being married in these cases, and not as much on the guy. And I know you focus on the guy in many areas, but I think there's one particular area that you're not focusing in on, and that's specifically the question of, okay, you've talked about if the woman is wife material, but what about the man himself? The big question is this particular man husband material? Which I think defines everything about what you're trying to get at. And like I say, there are a number of issues where I 100% agree with you on. So I'm going to start getting into some of the things where I disagree, and I think where we meet somewhere in the middle. Okay, so one of the issues where I disagree is on the age issue. You mentioned that Kobe like married too young, potentially, and that also he and his wife, I forgot her name, I guess Vanessa or something, basically either were married too early, too young, they didn't spend enough time dating, things like that. Where I would disagree with you on this issue is I don't really think there's an issue of dating, getting married too young. I think that people around the world, that people in many countries get married young, but as long as the culture supports it, and I think that's one of the issues in terms of marriage. Period. That if a person doesn't have a marriage within an area, within a certain culture where the culture supports the marriage itself, there could potentially be problems. Now that's not 100% the case all the time, but I think that being in a situation, whether that be a community, whether that be a family, where the marriage is fostered and supported and nurtured, is one of the things that keeps a marriage together. Because you have family members in some cases that can, for better or for worse, either cause disruption in the marriage or even help the marriage. But I think that when you're talking about youth, you could have someone who's married at like 50 and not know how to handle marriage. I've met a number of guys like this that are like old men and don't know how to handle a marriage, simply because they just don't. They either don't because they don't never learned how, or they just didn't want to learn how, or just don't want to. They just have their own concept of what it means to be married, and it's going to fail because their concepts are wrong. So I think that's one of the most important things to look at in terms of the situation of Kobe and this wife, that it has no difference. I think it makes no matter whether they married young or not, but I think the issue is what kind of people are they to begin with? When you look at Kobe Bryant as an example, okay, fine, he's a young, millionaire. One of the things I would say about that is being a young millionaire, that means he has a lot more time and a lot more resources to really invest in finding the wife that he wants to be with. A lot more than like the average guy who doesn't have the ability to just go across the world looking for a wife if he wanted to. If that's what Kobe Bryant really wanted, he could find whatever he is that he's looking for around the world. My theory, and this is just a theory of mine, is that Kobe Bryant married exactly who he wanted. I believe that Kobe Bryant specifically wanted, the woman that he married, with all of her issues, including him with all of his issues, whatever her thing was in life. I think that's what he was looking for, So I think he may have wanted the woman that was just the pretty wife on the shoulder kind of thing, rather than the woman that, may have been someone to help him be who he wants to be. But at the same time, the other question is maybe Kobe Bryant isn't husband material. You look at all the problems they had with the cases that came up against them. I'm not saying that these cases can't come up against a guy who had nothing to do with anything, but there are some guys out there, or many guys that are out there, that never have issues like this pop up at all. You know. And like I said, concerning the issue, for example, you mentioned that Kobe Bryant being young, that he still needed time to like sow his wild oats. As a guy, I can tell you that sometimes sowing your wild oats can cause a lot more problems than just getting married and like being with the person that you need to be with. Because there's a number of guys who've sold their wild oats, and those wild oats come back to haunt them when it's like, "Hey, daddy, you're the father of this child that you slept with this person and that person." There's a lot of issues that come up when guys go around sleeping with everybody and everything that's out there. So I think it is intelligent for a guy who is success orientated to try to accomplish certain goals, and marriage is one of those goals. Having a wife who is with you, who supports you, and starting to start a family early on, I think is a very noble thing to do if you have the ability to do those things. Now whether they are successful or not depends not only on you as a person, but also the woman that the person you want to marry. There's an old saying that if you want to see great grandchildren, marry young, so that way you can produce those children early. But at the same time, there's another saying I once heard that for a marriage to be successful, it has to be a situation where both people look at the needs and wants of themselves and the other person, and see those goals, see those wants and needs as things that they want to accomplish also with that person. It's like saying, okay, there are people who talk about love, but what exactly is love? Nobody can really define love per se. There's no scientific way to measure it. But a successful marriage can happen on some level if you have two people who've decided amongst themselves that the goals that they have and the goals of the other person, that the one that they're marrying, have, are goals that they're willing to fight for and work for. If both people can see those things within their goals, then a marriage can work out. No matter what issues they have, no matter what problems they have, no matter what comes up, if both people decide to keep working at it, a marriage can be successful. But the minute that one of them or both of them decides not to work at it, of course it'll fall apart. So this is something that is very crucial to any marriage, no matter how the person dresses or how they don't dress. So one thing I would kind of mention in closing, and it's kind of a point that you brought up about the Sergeant Willie Pete thing, and I think I'll also connect that to other people who were like him, who made a whole series of videos about like the problems of black women and this and that. Um, I never got on the Sergeant Willie Pete bandwagon. I mean, I heard about this whole thing like after I guess he was already like booted off YouTube or something. I heard about the Thugtician thing and a couple of people who were like them, but the funny thing I found about those videos was I could never watch them for like any like long length of time. I mean, there were things that I could agree with on some level about some of the things they were saying, not as a whole, as kind of like specific things about specific people that I knew back when I lived in America. But I mean, I think that one of the problems with those people is, that some of the points they were making seemed to be more about trying to get attention, not as much like the point that they were trying to get across. Because as a guy, I can say that, yeah, okay, maybe you can say to yourself, okay, I'm going to only date these kinds of women because I've had problems with these other women who are A, B, C, and D. For me, that's like a 2-second decision. You make the decision, then you find the woman that works for you wherever she comes from. Doesn't matter. You don't have to make like a whole series of videos about it, which I saw a lot of these guys doing, and there's this whole battle on YouTube kind of thing. And because you couldn't see their faces, you don't even really know who it is that these guys really are. I mean, they may have been married, they may have been, guys who were just like making, a point because they have nothing else in life. They may not have themselves been the material that a woman wants to be with, and then they get on YouTube and make a video about it because they're mad, not seeing the real issue. So I think that with people like that, and going back to the Kobe Bryant issue, that you generally get in some cases what you're looking for. I mean, if a guy's like running around cheating on his wife and she eventually catches him and she divorces him, he got what he was looking for. It was like he was looking for a divorce, whether he knows it or not. If a guy, stays true to his wife, but yet, she's the type that's like the club type, where she's out there, in the streets kind of thing, that's the lifestyle she wants to live. And if he can't handle that, you got what you got what you invested in. This is the way she was. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that. And sometimes you can find that out, even like after like being with a person for years. I mean, there's no time frame with that. But generally speaking, if a guy, especially a guy with the resources, really wants to find someone nice that will work out for him, he generally invests a certain amount of mental energy into determining if this is the person he really wants to be with. And I think that's the basic issue. So, like I said before, I commend you on the video. I think you're 100%, I think you're predominantly right on the issue you're talking about, and I think you have a valid point of view. And this is just my point of view. Like I said, my opinion about some of the things that you mentioned. So keep doing what you're doing, and take care. Bye.